I watched Seven Psychopaths again last night, and I was thinking back to my review, and once again, every time I watch it, there's something new to look at. If you want to look at it from just a storytelling point of view, if you want to look at it from looking at how Martin McDonagh delves into what a psychopath is or what perceptions of psychopaths are, or you could look at it at how it's a great dark. There is a big ass spider in my room right now. Okay, so that's alarming. You could look at it from a narrative perspective, or you can even look at it from finite themes, or just overall how it executes being a dark comedy. But we're going to look at it from a perspective of what is a psychopath. And I'm going to read and use my original review as a bit of like a guide, just so that I don't get too off track and then make this a 20-minute video. So let's start with Seven Psychopaths. What is it overall? It's Martin McDonagh's chance to understand what his own storytelling is and to embrace this sort of classic tropes of cinema, but establishing them with a fresh take. So he has the strength for using film as a commentary of nature and storytelling itself, and he understands the importance of genuine storytelling, and highlighting the importance of on-screen chemistry and balancing humor with depth, and he consistently does this. So in this Seven Psychopaths, McDonagh challenges the notions of what makes a good story, and he leans into that absurdity, and he blurs the lines between, there's also puppies outside, he blurs the lines between the writer's imagination, so the writer in the stories, but also himself, and this sort of unpredictable reality. And the interplay between fiction and reality reflects the struggles that writers often face when trying to come up with authentic and original stories. So the way he directs it keeps the pacing engaged, and the witty dialogue maintains a consistent level of dark humor throughout, to contrast and break up the sort of McDonagh's unapologetic, stylized and gruesome violence to add to the overall dark comedy theme. So let's just talk briefly about the plot. It's simple and it's condensed, and it's merely used as a vehicle to allow the characters to play, which is one of my favorites. So Marty, played by Colin Farrell, is a struggling alcoholic screenwriter, and he begins the journey deciding he wants to study and figure out a story about some psychopaths. And eventually he is dragged into a world of dog thieves and angry mobsters and really strange friends. And as he writes the story of his screenplay, the movie story starts to reflect the screenplay, and the events start to unfold spontaneously and absurdly, which then gives Marty inspiration for his actual story. So simple plot. There are some other characters involved. Sam Rockwell and Christopher Walken are two important characters in Marty's personal relationships, and the ones that he engages with most regularly. And then Woody Harrelson is also good as well, because he plays the antagonist and a sort of a catalyst for these other three characters to have to be with each other and engage with each other in the first place. But he also provides us a very standard and great example of different types of psychopaths, and that we'll look into a little bit more because it gets quite interesting. So what is a psychopath? So most media and social national conversations would have you believe it's a particular individual who is innately evil, cruel, heartless, and totally incapable of experiencing love. So people who are like pulling the wings off of bugs, these kinds of things, skinning cats, the whole thing. And we use and refer to a psychopath. Referring to someone as a psychopath has become a common way of emphasizing a distaste or a disturbance of, for their character, whether it's through direct or indirect interactions. So things that disturb us or feel obscure to the natural human nature is easier to define as that. So we've got classic examples from characters like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, Hannibal Lecter and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, and Norman Bates from Psycho. These are very stern examples of psychopaths. So we are then conditioned to believe that psychopaths are ultimately evil villains in both cinema and reality. I'm just going to zoom. Yeah. Guess who's here? Come here. It's Film Bro! Film Bro, Film Bro. Oh. Sorry. Okay. So I've adjusted the camera screen. Where were we? Okay. So, due to classic examples of other characters in the media, like Buffalo Bill, and the ones that I referenced, and then due to a lot of the media that we watch of serial killers such as Ted Bundy or what's his name? You see, I don't even care about serial killers enough for this conversation, but we are starting to, as individuals in the society, develop our own perception of what a psychopath is, and therefore that sort of starts to blur. So I think a big part of this is that we would love to all believe that we are above psychopathy, and that it's designated to this finite group of people, these unredeemable people, when it's actually very likely that we experience psychopathic tendencies to some degree, if not the condition itself. So according to psychopaths, according to psychopaths, as much as 30% of the population display some degree of reduced empathy, risk-taking, or an overly high self-regard. And to back this up, there is no diagnostic category for psychopaths in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, aka the DSM-5. And that this is both due to the fear that adding it will stigmatize those who are diagnosed with it, as well as the difficulty of actually acutely assessing these traits. So callousness, cruelty, indifference, and disregard. Some of the nearest diagnoses, symptomatic wise, is antisocial personality disorder, which is one of the 9 personality disorders, and focuses on the behavioral aspects of a psychopath, like aggression or impulsivity, rather than personality characteristics like remorselessness or narcissism. And then there's reactive attachment disorder, which stems from a person who has experienced a neglectful or badly abusive situation as an infant or a child. And when one is unable to form healthy attachments with parents or their caregivers, as a defense mechanism, a person with the condition needs to disregard their internal and unconscious fears and anger to this is used as a defense mechanism. As a defense mechanism, a person with the condition needs to disregard their internal and unconscious fears and anger for the brain to be able to cope with the trauma. So that then makes them hard to relate to others or be willing to even seek help for the condition. So psychopaths don't necessarily have a lack of compassion, but they certainly cause us to lose compassion in them. And Seven Psychopaths plays on the fact that there is a universal understanding of and a distaste for people who experience psychopathy, but he allows these characters to identify and even point out instances where they do feel one another is acting psychopathic. This includes moments where characters show no sympathy, disregard for human emotion, and act heartlessly. So Seven Psychopaths essentially wants to show how little the label of psychopathy actually matters to the characters. So Seven Psychopaths aims to show how little psychopathy actually matters, as the characters branded as psychopaths actually engage in life and relationships with versatility. They're not all heartless, sadistic beings at their core. They are capable of loving and forming romantic or friendly connections with others. So this then muddies the waters. And McDonagh chooses to focus on a variety of different psychopath archetypes to execute this. He indulges in stereotypical traits of violence and sadism and counters them with unique tropes or interactions that highlight a core personality of deep love and devotion, kind of emphasizing that both of these can exist within one another and can be different reactions regarding on situation and circumstance. So he provides humanizing backstories and motivations that don't justify the actions of the psychopaths, but it gives a valid explanation as to their experiences, traumatic events, and life experiences that are essentially what have shaped them and their psychopathic tendencies. So McDonagh's aiming not to be on either side, but to blur the lines between good and evil. Sorry, Beans is literally killing us. So for the sake of the analysis, we're going to look at the psychopaths and their contributions to the plot. And I'm probably going to put an image up here because it is a bit confusing. So we're going to go with number 1 is the Jack of Diamonds. This turns out to be Sam Rockwell's character, Billy Bickle, over here. We then have the Quaker. Then we have the Vietnamese priest. We have Charlie Costello. We have Zachariah Rigby. And we have Hans Kielowski. And that is 6. And there is a 7th psychopath. And we'll talk about that psychopath later. So, Marty Farron and the main character, Colin Farrell, he's an alcoholic, struggling screenwriter, is attempting to write a screenplay of a film surrounding 7 psychopaths. And he's non-committal, and he prioritizes drinking over spending time with his working on his writing, and even spending time with his girlfriend. So he's battling with the complications of storytelling and is unable to organically connect the characters and plots, which is a direct parallel to the conflicts that filmmakers might experience during the drafting phases. And the reason I've chosen to talk about it from this angle is because McDonagh himself, during interviews of this, has taken that approach as well and has expressed that after In Bruges, what was coming next when a movie that is so focused on storytelling, and what's next, and how do I keep that up, and how do I not fall into the trap of what is expected of us and what is genuine storytelling. So this, this is a great parallel. And so Marty is seeking to kind of use a formulaic plot for his screenplay, and it only starts coming together as his experiences and it start to influence his perspective. And similarly, McDonagh's screenplays are inspired by his personal experiences. So understanding the importance of genuine storytelling and challenging the notions of what makes a good story is very McDonagh central. There are times Colin Farrell's character Marty exhibits his own traits of psychopathy, and it's easily blamed on his drinking problem. He sees himself better as other characters because his personality is less obvious or on display. He's been on the brink of being a psychopath from the beginning of the movie, so easily displayed simply through his lack of, not his disregard for his girlfriend, but his lack of being able to even relate or understand why his girlfriend would be feeling the type of way. He's able to acknowledge that it's wrong by other people's standards around him. So by the end of the film, Marty is well aware that he's much darker than he once thought, and that his actions are questionable and have altered the way that he will act moving forward. And that is where it's kind of and highly implied that the 7th psychopath is Marty himself. So what really drives the plot forward is Marty's best friend, Billy Bickle, which is Sam Rockwell's character. And Billy, he is an aspiring actor and a dog kidnapper. And he makes money by collecting the financial rewards for helping people find their missing dogs that he stole. So Billy's extremely invested in his friendship with Marty, and he becomes obsessed with helping Marty create the screenplay. So he goes so far as to put an advert out for psychopaths to reach out to Marty, and he orchestrates crimes of his own under pseudonym the Jack of Diamonds. So Billy is number 1. Again, I hope you guys are managing to keep that up. So Billy, he's unpredictable, impulsive. He serves as the manipulative mentor. He pushes the story in unexpected ways. And it's his fault that he and Marty and Hans, which we'll get to, his partner in kidnapping, are ending up in this life-threatening situation. And then he orchestrates the direction of the story going forward by his impulsivity, his actions, and how his perspective of life is. And that is very central and focused on the camaraderie of the 3 of them, funny enough. So Billy's deemed a psychopath due to the eagerness to cause chaos and crime, and the ease at which he's willing to harm others in favor of being loyal and helpful to Marty and Hans, which is completely contradictory. Billy's actions, though heartless, are a display of his deep love and devotion to his friends. So while he is able to feel both, it's that connection between the two, where he can feel that for people that he loves and is aware of, but not for people that he doesn't know and cannot relate them. So Hans, Christopher Walken, he's the wise guide. So at his core, he's madly in love and compassionate with his wife, Mira. Mira is Hans's voice of reason, and without her by his side, Hans is inclined to act with impulse and clouded judgment. And with a dark past, Hans unintentionally inspires a character and the story of the Quaker, which is the 2nd psychopath in it. So the Quaker story is essentially one that Marty thought he came up with, but it belonged to Hans, and it's kind of like when you meet Hans, you don't expect that of his character, because Hans is a calm and philosophical demeanor. He uses religion as a connection to a way of life. He counterbalances Billy's impulsive nature and serves as a source of redemption for the other characters to actually bounce off of. And Then there's Charlie. Charlie is done by Woody Harrelson. He is the primary antagonist, ruthless gangster with an archetype of the classic psychopathic villain. And Charlie becomes key element in the story, and is the catalyst for the escalation of violence. And this is all because his little Shih Tzu Bonnie gets taken. And that is interesting because Charlie is painted as cruel simply by being a mobster. His entire arc revolves around his true love and loss of Bonnie and how he wants to get this dog back. So he's proved right there that he is willing to do anything it takes to get this dog back. And he was also willing to punish those who took it. And his unwavering certainty in choosing to react with violence starkly contrasts that love for the dog. So those are the main characters, showing a brilliant, like a blatant example of like how difficult it is to actually characterize them. The three remaining psychopaths are disconnected to the main plot, but this works to expand our realm of psychopaths and not overshadow the importance of the main characters before it gets too complicated. So the Quaker, which was inspired by Hans, and Zachariah Rigby, which is a weird dude with bunnies, are representative of the avenging psychopath, the seeking justice and revenge for hurt and cruelty their loved ones experience. So their tendencies are fueled by dark and traumatic pasts. The Vietnamese priest, an unexpected character, emphasizes the wide range of character of psychopathy. Though his appearance is brief and scattered, his arc is extremely impactful and ends up highlighting the cyclical nature of violence and revenge. And essentially, his story summarizes the endings of the main characters. He serves to echo the cautionary tale and the consequences of violence. So each psychopath has a personal arc that is subject to evolving through dialogue and interactions, and this results in the character's redemption or growth of the several of the psychopaths, and that often alters the movie's plot as a whole. It's almost as if McDonagh is letting their changes tell the story. So Billy and Hans undergo a lot of personal growth and come to terms with their violent past and consequences that they have to face for it. And this then challenges the perception of, are psychopaths incapable of change or at least self-awareness? So now we can no longer actually rely on the notion that all psychopaths are incapable of having any redeemable qualities, at least in the world of Seven Psychopaths. With diverse portrayals, a humanistic approach, and the exploration of complex motivations, offering a nuanced perspective of psychopathy, we're then encouraged to consider the intricacies of the condition and the humans who might lie within. So, to me, Seven Psychopaths stands as a remarkable cinematic achievement that skillfully explores how seven psychopaths look at this. Look at this. That's ridiculous. Are you a film bro? Welcome to the family, film bro. This is Peter. To me, Seven Psychopaths stands as a remarkable cinematic achievement that skillfully dissects and studies storytelling. And we've delved into the film's multifaceted layers and explored how this movie artfully deconstructs conventional storytelling tropes and challenges the audience's perspective and perception of character archetypes and plot development. You just need to come hang. You just need to be my friend. So I find McDonagh an impeccable writer because of his deep understanding for his craft, the way he seamlessly weaves humor, tragedy, and thought-provoking themes into this compelling tapestry. And Seven Psychopaths is a great case study in how storytelling can transcend traditional boundaries. And it's evident that McDonagh's storytelling prowess extends beyond merely crafting a compelling tale, but instead, this movie, Seven Psychopaths, becomes a vehicle for introducing and exploring the human condition and elevating a work of art beyond entertainment and leaving a lasting impact. And this is something that I find very, I wanted to say prevalent, but we know how that is, very consistent in McDonagh's films. In Bruges and Three Billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and of course The Banshees of Inisherin. They are very centered around exploring the human condition, but in a natural storytelling manner. And I think what I will do is a review on In Bruges, and we can talk about that next and some themes. So stay tuned.